Welcome back to the Cherry Picking Podcast presented by Owner's Box. Today we are talking late round gems with very special guest, Matt Larkin, senior hockey writer of the Hockey News. So excited to have him on.
Absolutely.
Drew, show him what we have for him here.
Also, make sure to pick up your copy of the Hockey News Pool Guide. This thing is like my fantasy Bible every single season, so make sure you get your copy. A lot of great work in here by Matt.
Yeah, we're going to leave all his socials.
It's going to be a free plug. I love it. My boss is going to be so happy.
Yes. We're going to put all his links in our description, so you guys make sure you go check him out. Great follow on Twitter. He has great rankings every year. Drew and I have looked at them, and we're going to talk about some today. We're going to talk about some late round gems. I'm going to talk about a guy, and Matt, you can tell me if I'm crazy here, but Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators is going undrafted pretty much in every fantasy league. I personally think that he has an opportunity to potentially take over Josh Norris's role. It hasn't been talked about, but the Senators did move things a lot last year. Josh Norris, we saw some line 3 action. Shane Pinto and Josh Norris have a lot of good comparisons together. They both played the NCAA. They both put up similar points. The difference is Josh Norris had a full year of the AHL. The Senators usually don't just bring people right to the NHL. We saw that with only really Brady to Chuck. So they obviously see something in Shane Pinto, and they are he's most likely going to start in the second line. I think it's worth the risk of drafting him late, just for that ceiling of playing PP1 and line 1. But I'm going to go with Shane Pinto as my first guy.
Yeah, I think for the most part, you're right. I think you have to be careful over projecting him all the way to line 1, because you know that Chuck Norris, Petersen, they've got great chemistry already, but that's okay. Even if you're projecting Pinto for the second line, which I think is totally legit, I'm absolutely on board with that. He's someone I would target as a late round sleeper as well, because at the end of a draft, it doesn't matter if you're going to drop Shane Pinto. Let's say he ends up not making the team from now. It's worth the upside alone. And we know, of course, what really changes things is Colin White just got hurt. And it doesn't sound like it's a short-term injury. It's going to, I don't know, but it's going to be a week, 2 weeks, but that sounds like the minimum. And to me, that's going to clinch it. Now I'd be shocked if Pinto doesn't make the team. You're absolutely right that the Senators have a history of bringing players slowly along, but guys that come from a college background, they tend to be a bit more mature. And the thing about Pinto, this is a thing that I always kind of point out in fantasies. And if you're someone like Pinto who has a really good two-way game, right, coming from North Dakota, he's going to obviously be compared to Jonathan Taves. He was really good on face-offs there, and he's going to be someone that's, I think, a coach's pet. That means he can play on any line, which it's a double-edged sword in fantasy. The good news is he's much more likely to make the team and stick on the team because he doesn't need to be on a scoring line to be effective. The bad news is he doesn't need to be on a scoring line to be effective, so there's always a chance that they put him back on the third line. Overall, though, I would say I mostly agree. I'm pretty bullish because, with all due respect to Chris Tierney, that's who you're basically competing with the number 2 center job. We know who Chris Tierney is. He's fine. He's just a guy. No disrespect. Good NHL career, but we know who he is. And that's not the case with Pinto. There's upside there. So to me, I think it's only a matter of time before you see him playing with Tim Stützle and Connor Brown on line 2.
Yeah. I do like that line. I mean, Connor Brown's another guy I could have mentioned here, but I think that, like you said, that line 1, the line 1 was pretty much just like a hot take pretty much from me. Maybe coming from a Sens fan here, I think that he could take that spot, but completely agree, Matt.
Yeah, great pick there, Jeremy. A guy I want to talk about is late round gems, currently going undrafted in Yahoo leagues, and that is Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues. Honestly can't believe that he's going undrafted. He's currently slotted on the it's mind-blowing. Currently slotted on the top line there with O'Reilly and Perron, and on the first power play. Last year started really hot, but kind of ended a little cold. In the end, he got 35 points in 55 games with only 3 points on the power play. So he was able to get 32 even strength points. Now adding the fact he's going to play the power play and he's going to play 5-on-5 with O'Reilly for the full year, I think this guy should definitely be drafted and a lot higher than the late round. But if you can get him with your last pick, it's a steal.
Oh, absolutely. If he's available in the late rounds of a draft, I want in that league. I hope that league's for money. I want to take your money because Kyrou, to me, that's a no-brainer. And the only thing that was missing from the puzzle, we know this, last year, he was playing like 14 minutes a game, right? So 5-on-5, he was something like top 25, give or take, in points per 60. And so we know the production was there, albeit in relatively sheltered minutes, but the skill set's there. He's a really fast player. He was a big scorer in junior with Sarnia. So he has the pedigree to be an offense first player. He's someone you want to see on a scoring line. But the problem was always that he was blocked on that depth chart. Well, things are changing in St. Louis. We know Vladimir Tarasenko. We don't know, there's a good chance. I know it sounds like he's going to start the season with the team, but we don't know if that's going to last. So to me, it seems like the Blues are kind of thinking long-term, which is great news for Kyrou. They want to see him emerge as the long-term first line right winger. He's earned the shot. And to me, like that just kind of clinches it. Even if he wasn't on the first line to start the year, I had him as one of my sleepers. But now you filled in that last piece of the puzzle. He's going to play. He's actually going to play maybe 18 minutes a game or 17 minutes, whatever it's going to be. So yes, go and get him right away.
Yeah, completely agree.
He's going to get that volume on that first line. So I think it's a great pick, Drew.
Thank you.
Matt, who are you thinking here?
In terms of my own favorite sleepers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I thought of some for you fellas. What I wanted to do was I didn't want to be boring, so I thought of one per position, just to spread out the love, okay?
Okay.
So if we're talking goalie, I think Cal Petersen is someone who's getting really neglected.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the other young, up-and-coming goalie of the future types that are around the league, like Jake Ottinger, from what I've been told by sources, it sounds like they're going to have to start him in the AHL. That's the way it's trending. You have Jeremy Swayman, who is going to be splitting time with Linus Ullmark at best. You have Spencer Knight, who it sounds like from Joel Quenneville is going to be on the shorter end of the stick, and Sergei Bobrovsky is going to start out playing more, maybe even if it's 60-40 or 70-30. But then Cal Petersen, that's not the case. We know already that Jonathan Quick, being the gamer that he is being a mentor and accepting of that role at his age, and they're openly grooming Petersen to be their number one, and they just signed him to an extension that confirms that. So Petersen, unlike those other young goalies, is to me a lock to play at least 50%, probably a lot more than 50%, maybe 65% of his team's games. And we know that's a team on the rise. The Kings are going to get much better defensively. They brought in Philip Deneau. They're going to be able to score a bit more, bringing in Victor Arvidsson. They have their your next wave of youth on the rise, Quentin Byfield, Arthur Kaliev, guys like that. And you bring in Alex Edler to add depth to defense. So to me, just in general, the Kings, the arrow is pointing up. They play in the weakest division in the NHL. I think they're going to actually be in the hunt for the playoff spot. And you have Petersen, who was pretty good last year on a team that wasn't very good, and the team around him should be getting better. He has, I think, a really nice path to playing time. So if you're in a fantasy league that counts volume stats, there's upside there as well. So that's my pick for a sleeper in net. Okay, that's one. Do you want me to just bang off the next two, like all in a row?
Yeah, sure. Bang him off. I mean, we could talk a little bit about Petersen on our side. We do like him too. We did read a stat on Twitter that said that he plays with John Gibson like the least amount of back-to-back games in the NHL today. NHL this year, the Kings and the
Ducks.
The Ducks. So that's an interesting stat that, he's not going to play much back-to-back, which means he should get a lot of volume this year.
Also, the analytics show that Cal Petersen was one of the best goalies individually last year, regardless of team situations. So if the team takes a step forward, it could be sky's the limit for Cal Petersen. That's
right. Bang on. That's a really good point about back-to-backs. It really matters, right? In this platoon era, when the position is much harder to play, like if you're in fantasy and you see your goalie has a back-to-back, you're like, oh, great. He's playing all those games. That's just the way the league is now. Your goalie is not playing back-to-backs anymore. So if you have the fewest in the league, that's a great tiebreaker. If you're trying to decide between Petersen and someone else, that's a really great nugget. If we're talking defenseman, I'm really bullish on Jamie Drysdale. I don't know if he's too obvious to be a sleeper. It really just depends on the size of your league, but he's someone who is so needed by his team. The Anaheim Ducks have had the worst power play in the league the last two seasons combined. They've been absolutely terrible with the man advantage. We know what Jamie Drysdale can do. He's just creative. He's evasive. And I've said this before in writing, but he kind of, it feels like everyone wants to compare someone to Cale Makar, but what Drysdale brings to his team is going to be pretty similar. He's right-hand shot. He's not very big. He's a modern version of a defenseman, and he's very crafty, and he just brings the offense. So the only difference, of course, is that Makar has a lot more talent around him, but in terms of someone who's going to cost way less than Makar in drafts, it's Jamie Drysdale, and the upside is there. There's no reason why the Ducks shouldn't just throw him out there on the first power play unit, the first game of the season, and let him be their quarterback. Because even though they have Kevin Shattenkirk, that's a great person to learn from in terms of the offensive side of the game. Drysdale is going to be their guy. So that's my defense sleeper. And my forward sleeper, this is a tough one, okay? And we talked about this already. You guys already mentioned it before. Sometimes when you're looking at a rookie as a sleeper, it's entirely possible that the guy's going to be cut next week. That's okay. So I'm going to mention Lucas Raymond, and don't get mad if he's cut next week. If he doesn't make the Red Wings, we know they've been very conservative with the way they play things. But to me, the upside is immense because Jakub hurt the shoulder. He's out for a significant amount of time, and the Red Wings need offense so badly. Lucas Raymond's already ripping it up in the preseason, and he just brings that intelligent, like it's a throwback Red Wing. Like he reminds me of Henrik Zetterberg, which was what he does on the ice. He's so smart and just plays intelligent two-way hockey, and he just kind of fits right in with the Red Wings brand. So I do think he's going to make the team, and I think he's going to be a hit and challenge for the Calder Trophy. So those would be a few sleepers off the top of my head.
Awesome, yeah. That Vrana injury definitely opens up great opportunity there for Raymond. Also, Moritz Seider on the Red Wings is another great sleeper with the last pick in the draft from the Red Wings. Lots of opportunity. Could replace Voracek as the power play defenseman, and then he'd be a great sleeper. He could really anchor your team on defense.
Yeah, I like both those picks. I got two more players to round out the episode. Eeli Tolvanen. Drew is, I guess, on the fence with this player since the bulk of his points last year were obviously on the power play, but I don't really mind that. I mean, 12 of his 22 points were on the power play, which is just crazy. Obviously shows that he has an insane shot and has that snapshot that he usually goes with, or that slap shot. He's going to be the guy for the power play on the side there that's going to be shooting the puck for one-timers or just his snapshot. I think that as 170 ADP for a guy who's going to play line 2 and kind of solidified on that PP1, I'm going to take that all day, especially at the wing position that can get short on you later in drafts. But definitely Eeli Tolvanen is definitely someone I'm targeting late. And then last, this is someone that I really wanted to get your opinion on, Matt. We've been talking about in our Dynasty League. You talk about the Michigan guys. Everyone's going back to Michigan. But what about William Eklund? He might make the team out of camp. There's chatter on Twitter. I'm interested to hear from you what you think of William Eklund, because on Twitter, everyone's praising him, saying that he will make the team out of camp. That's sort of where the vibe's going.
Yeah.
And how big of a role should we expect from him?
The Sharks' wing spots are wide open, too.
It's tough. And isn't it weird with the Sharks? Because for so long, because they were good for so long, they didn't really have any elite prospects. Timo Meier was one of their only guys that got the top 10 pick because they were good for so long. They traded their picks. They were always making the playoffs. They just don't get to draft guys like that, right? Thomas Hertl, Logan Couture, they were both first-round picks as well. But in the sort of current generation, the Sharks, and also because they're so top-heavy, I think this is a big reason why they've been struggling. They spent so much money on their defensemen that they're basically requiring their youth movement to come in and replace the depth at forward, but because they didn't have high picks, they don't have quality forwards coming up. That's where Eklund, things are a little bit different. Same with Ozzy Wiesblatt, right? It's like, okay, now we're bringing in guys that actually could make an impact, especially Eklund. The thing with the Sharks, I think more than most teams, the Sharks are someone who I think they could bring him up, because they are a team that's always in denial, in my opinion. They always believe they're going to make the playoffs to their detriment. That's just sort of how things are under the Doug Wilson regime. And the players love it. The players love that they have a GM who always wants to make the playoffs. I think that actually puts San Jose the furthest away from the Stanley Cup out of every team right now. But if we're talking about Eklund making the team, it's more likely, because I don't think the Sharks are going to care about rushing him. They think they can win now. And if that's the case, they're going to try and add whoever they can. And with Evander Kane being out of the equation, there's no telling how high he can climb on the depth chart.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. The Evander Kane definitely helps his case for making that team. And if he does, I think that, we have a potential star here that we could see rise up. And everyone's talking about the guys going back to Michigan and stuff, but I think he's sort of been lost in fantasy. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. Maybe don't draft, but maybe keep an eye, maybe first week, see if he makes the team, and then start stash him.
Add him to your watch list.
Yes, I agree.
One more player I wanted to talk about here going late in drafts is Jakub Voracek of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think people think after this trade, maybe he's on a bad team, maybe he's a little bit older. He's only 32. He's been one of the most consistent fantasy producers in the NHL. I think we could see another 60-point season from Voracek because of ice time, because he's going to be that number one go-to offensive force for the Blue Jackets, first line, first power play. And Tortorella's now gone, so maybe they open things up a little bit more. I mean, it is the assistant coach being hired. We've been saying this all preseason, but there is a chance that they go to a more offensive system, and Voracek's the leader for the team and is relied on in all situations and has a great year for his last round ADP.
I think you're bang on there. And the thing with Voracek, there's a great fantasy writer, Scott Pianowski at Yahoo. He has a term called the Raul Ibanez All-Stars, if you're a baseball fan. And it's kind of the boring veterans who they're not exciting to draft, but they still have good production. And Jakub Voracek is kind of an Ibanez All-Star. And the thing is, it's like if you're picking a rookie that you're trying to show off that you're a hipster in your draft, you got to think, is that rookie going to get 60 points? Because if that rookie gets 60 points, he's going to win the Calder or be a Calder Trophy finalist. So you better be sure, because you're passing on Jakub Voracek, who will get 60 points in his sleep. And that's a weird thing where these veteran guys get overlooked because they're boring. I think people kind of devalue Voracek because his contract is too expensive in real life. He's making $8 million plus. But I was just doing a little bit of math on him earlier today. His last 3 seasons, which has been his quote unquote decline, per 82 games, it's 68 points, which even surprised me. I was like, man, he's still producing. And now he's going to be playing with Patrick Laine. He's never in his career played with a goal scorer as naturally talented as Patrick Laine. And I know Voracek's not a center, but he's a great passer. He's a playmaker, right? So that is going to be a connection that you see, I think, sticking together for a lot of the season, maybe the whole season. Who knows? So there is kind of weird, sneaky upside there. I agree. And he's going to be out there on the power play. The thing is, does your league count plus minus? If it does, you have to knock some points off Voracek. Because
also, if it's goals premium, if it's a goals premium league, you got to knock a bit off too, because he's an assist guy.
Yes, that's right. He's empty calories if you're in a goal premium league, right? So if it's a league that values the goals and assists equally or values points, power play points, Voracek I think could kind of be a steal. But plus minus or goals heavy leagues, it's going to hurt you a little bit.
Yeah. Like the pick.
Absolutely.
Like the pick. All right, so that's some late round gems to get you ready for your fantasy hockey draft and season. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. Thanks again to Matt for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Remember, all his stuff will be in the description, all his links to Twitter. Go give him a follow on Twitter. We'll see you guys next week.